Good morning. So the baby's sleeping, and so I'm hopefully going to be able to make my points in today's video. I've made some notes which I'll be referring to, but they're sort of loose notes, so hopefully we'll have some kind of structure. Today I want to talk about emotional pain, and I want to talk about emotional pain in the period that is the point at which you might take a decision to freeze your eggs to preserve your fertility is likely to be a period of time in which you're undergoing emotional pain. If you kind of fit the same profile as me, which is heterosexual, always thought you'd get married, relationship, things would just work themselves out and you'll naturally have children on that life path. And then you get to a certain age and you find out that you've reached a certain age and you're going to have to take some decisions or not make a decision, which is a decision itself. And for me, that was in the midst of a great deal of emotional pain. And in fact, if you do get to that age and you did want to get married and have kids and you find out that your life hasn't to date turned out like that, that in itself is very painful, and you probably went through a lot of emotional pain to be in that situation, because it probably means that you tried to have relationships and the relationships didn't work out, which isn't what you wanted, and that in itself is painful. So it's actually sort of like a tsunami or a perfect storm of pain, not to put too much of a fine point on it, because you're kind of like grieving what you didn't have. You're beating yourself up about what didn't work out. And then you have all of the stuff related to fear of actually taking the next step. Because when you think about it, most of our, if you go down the traditional path of like partnership, getting engaged, getting married, having kids, there are these societal markers to kind of soften the blow of the shock of the new phase of life that you're going into, all of that stuff about, commitment. I'm a commitment phobe. It's kind of a real thing. And actually, I think in societies where people get married later and reach these, milestones later in their life, there's a lot more fear. Whereas if you do it when you're younger, it's a lot more sort of natural because everyone's doing it and you haven't got used to a certain state of things. In my case as well, there was another aspect to do with work, which, looking back, I sort of wish that work had been on the therapist's chair, because my relationship with work was not just work as work, because I had a career. And I'm not saying that from a sort of a big-headed blah, blah, blah thing of a career. What I mean by that is that I'd invested in work a lot, and it wasn't for one moment in my value system that I ever thought that work is more important than children. But the expectations that I had, and this is a function of how, I wouldn't say it's even necessarily a feminism thing, I think it's actually more complex than that, and I think it's a societal thing as well, but the expectations of what work can actually give me, to the extent to which it can fulfill me, was misguided. And that's also to do with something which is personal to me, which is just to do with, whether I chose the right type of, I still don't think I found the right type of work. But it's not, I'm not saying all this kind of personal stuff in order, to just, the reason I'm not saying this for its own sake. The reason I'm saying it is I think that sort of, if you can imagine your life, you're kind of flowing downstream with the water of life, and you're following the flow. Then the society in which we live, it has a certain flow, which I don't think it's leading us necessarily to the right things, and that in itself can cause unhappiness. But you won't find that in magazines. Case in point, yes, you'll find, if you look for them, lots of magazine articles about saying for women saying I reached the age of 50 and I never had kids and I never got married and my life is fantastic and it's this and it's that. But you don't really see the magazine articles about this like deep pain that some... See, I'm couching everything not to offend anyone, but the truth is I think that a lot of women deep down have a lot of pain if they're not able to have children, and and that's from people that I know, and I think it's pushed down as well, and also it's pointless. Now, when I underwent the procedure a year and a half ago now, I'm now 50 years old, and when I underwent the procedure, I was actually sitting on the fence. I was so broken by all of the fertility process over 6 years, and I was so scared that I did make peace with myself in that, well, if it doesn't work, like I was at peace with myself in the sense that it's not like my life's gone to waste if I don't become a mother. Not at all. It's not like I can't have relationships and friendships and experiences. It's not like I can't give to the world, and it's not like I can't take from the world if I don't have a child. Not at all. And well, it's kind of like the question is, somebody once said something to me, I can't remember who, said, well, there are other ways to becoming a mother. Like if you don't have a child of your own, there are other ways to become a mother. I sort of go along with that and I don't go along with that. There is nothing like being a mother. Doesn't mean that everyone who becomes a mother puts their heart and soul into it. And we're all imperfect anyway. I don't think anyone perfectly does. But I'm saying it doesn't mean there aren't like abusive mothers out there, and it doesn't mean that there aren't mothers who don't realise fully the gift that they've got or appreciate it, and it doesn't mean that there aren't mothers who aren't able to properly function as much. It doesn't negate all of the other stuff where things aren't working properly. But as an experience, there are things which it's impossible to put into words. You can try, but it's really hard, like the experience of being pregnant and the experience of giving birth. It's just not possible to put it into words. It's a thing of itself. It has its own quality. So, the comforting thought of there are other ways to become a mother it's true and it's not true. I mean, it's like somebody who is a mother through adopting a child is no less a mother than a mother who gave birth. But there is something in the pregnancy process and in the birth process which is qualitatively different. I don't know, it's all very sensitive, it's all very touchy, and it can also cause a lot of hurt to a lot of people to talk about these things. And at the end of the day, we have to live in reality. But as sensitive as we can be to other people's feelings of things that they can never have because of how their life has panned out, if we get to the stage where we're denying saying things at all, then we deny people the full picture of information to make life choices. And I think what I'm sort of standing here and I'm saying is, it is deeply painful. It can be. I'm just going to have to speak in generalities, and whoever I offend can go jump. Like there's only so much you can do. Most people on the planet are heterosexual, so I'm speaking to them. It doesn't mean what I've got to say isn't applicable to people who aren't heterosexual, but that's what I am, so that's what I'm speaking to. Most women have maternal instincts and want to be mothers. Doesn't mean every woman does. I can't put in every disclaimer so I don't, offend anyone. I can't. But like, when it gets to the stage that I can't say what I want to say and it's applicable to the majority of people, it's just silly. So I'm just going to say it. And it doesn't mean that I'm prejudiced against other people, and it doesn't mean deny other people's reality, but like the reason I'm getting a little bit irate talking about this is because we're in this culture where we're trying not to offend, but then we're not saying what's true for most people, and then women are being duped into thinking that it doesn't really matter and it's okay. I did come to terms with the fact that I might not be a mother. And when I saw how low the chances are that I would be successful, I was like, well, I'm not going to, I can't spend the rest of my life. I've been so depressed for the last 6 years. It's horrible going through infertility treatments. I've been so depressed and so down and so lost because I was like just in this no man's land. I'm not like a happy-go-free single person. And I'm not a married person and I'm not a single mother. I'm just kind of constantly wasn't able to get pregnant and going through all of the hormonal changes that go with it and pumping myself with hormones to help it happen. If you think PMT is bad, you should try all of these hormones. It's horrible. So I was like, well, I've like spent the last 6 years just being completely out of it. Out of my life, and like I might succeed now. This is a year and a half ago when I revisited doing fertility treatment against all odds, and I succeeded. Thank God. But I was like, if I don't succeed, it's not going to be the end of my life. So I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that like it's the end of you're not worth anything as a person if you don't succeed. But it's just such a pity not to try because you've been duped into thinking that it doesn't matter and you can get by without it. And I think that we're not in a supportive society. I'll leave aside all the economic parts of it. But in terms of our femininity, we're sexualized so much that the mothering instinct is kind of transmuted into something else which is sexualized. And if you're disadvantaged as well, that you don't come from a stable, healthy relationship at home, then even if you're self-aware, you don't, it's hard, it's really hard and it's working against you. And then it would be natural to have, it's just such a pity if you want to have kids not to have them, and that you created a problem that was avoidable by not preserving your fertility. That's all I want to say at the end of it. But I also wanted to make this post to give acknowledgement that if you're at that decision point where you're considering having a baby and doing it by yourself or doing it with a partner who isn't a romantic partner, whichever configuration, but to enter into parenthood, that you're probably coming from a lot of emotional pain, and it's a very hard decision to make. It's a decision that in the regular flow of life would be cushioned by approvals and ceremonies of engagement parties and marriage parties and all of your friends doing it together. And so if you're getting to this point, you've probably seen most of your friends are already married or in relationships, whatever. Most of them already have kids. Like, you're probably already sort of left out. And you're probably not at the highest point of your life. And so I'm blurring out his face, but I wanted to make this video as well to show you how that it's possible to change your reality. It's not all dependent on us, it's luck as well. But when it comes to preserving fertility, the sooner you do it, the better. It makes such a difference. I'll do another post on my story about age and the difference it made for me. The other thing that I want to say that I'm going to acknowledge, I think, and talk about in another video, is the degree to which our society doesn't support us in the ideas that it gives women about the importance, the place of work and sexuality and and other topics, but he's just woken up now, and I'll leave it here for now. Okay, see you next video. Bye.